Hello and welcome to Wednesday Warfare, where I review NXT and AEW Dynamite back-to-back and try and figure out which show won for the week. Stay tuned to the end of this review for my predictions for AEW Revolution, but before that, let's go into NXT. The show begins with Dominik Dijakovic taking on Cameron Grimes. It's a good competitive match, Dijakovic doing his big man flippy things, when all of a sudden at the end, when the referee's distracted, Damian Priest rolls up, hits Dijakovic in the back of his previously injured leg with a weapon of some kind, and he leaves. Dominik barely avoids the 10 count, but then he walks right into the big double stop by Cameron. So a big upset victory by Grimes here, kind of unlikely outcome. And so we see the officials help Dominik to the back. So it seems that they are pumping the brakes on another rematch with Dijakovic and Keith Lee. Seems to be heading in the direction of Dijakovic and Damian Priest for the time being. We'll see how that pans out. Backstage, William Regal announces there's going to be some qualifying matches starting next week to see who will be in a ladder match at TakeOver Tampa to fight for the #1 contendership for the women's title. Very excited about that matchup. I'm curious to see who they're going to put in that final matchup, how many slots are going to be in there. A lot of questions, but I'm very open-minded about how that's going to turn out. We then have Finn Balor enter the ring for a promo. He says, "I'm not a moves guy, I'm not an internet guy, I'm not an office backstage stooge guy, but when I'm in the ring, I'm the guy." He then puts over his accolades and he challenges and says, "Who's going to face me next?" Out come Eichner and Bartel from Imperium, and they say, "Walter sends his regards." The three of them have a big fight, and it ends with Eichner and Bartel beating up Balor on the steps and just laying him out. Very babyface thing for Balor to suffer, though, because, I mean, they've been really going whole hog into this heel thing for Balor here, but just the way they're setting this up, it seems to me they're already going to kind of change course and maybe turn Balor face in time for TakeOver when he inevitably takes on Walter, which, again, that match I'm very excited for. I'm just very surprised that they already seem to be kind of like changing direction with Balor and making him not so heelish anymore. Again, just from the first look at the thing, things could change, things could kind of settle back to the way they were in the weeks to come, but that did catch my eye. Mia Yim versus Xia Lee doesn't get too far into things, though, as Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez interrupt soon into the match. Dakota's on the microphone talking smack to Mia, and in the distraction, Xia actually rolls Mia up to win. So two matches, two kind of surprising upsets. Then after the match right away, Raquel gets in there, beats up both Mia Yim and Xia Lee and stands tall. So it's interesting. They're setting up next week's cage match with Tegan and Dakota by establishing, hey, Raquel's this presence. But next week, though, we're going to take that away. She's not going to be able to do that. Sure, she won't. Then we see Velveteen Dream cutting a promo in the bathroom. He challenges Roderick Strong to a rematch from last week, but he says, next week, Regal, keep the cage up because we're going to settle things in the steel cage. And that really threw me off guard when I heard that, because, okay, remember a few months ago leading into War Games, how like you had 2 episodes in a row that were main evented by ladder matches to see which team would get the advantage. And now you've got, instead of having 2 weeks in a row with ladder matches, you've got 2 cage matches in 1 episode. And that to me is overkill. And right away it diminishes the impact of both of those cage matches at once. I think more so it hurts the women's cage match, because I think that was, to me, I was excited about seeing that natural escalation. And I think the Roderick Strong Velveteen Dream is also a natural escalation, but to have them back to back on one night, I think it's, like I said, it's overkill. And it really lessens the significance of both matches. Last week, Austin Theory got in Tommaso Ciampa's way and paid for it. This week, they have an official matchup, and Theory promises to get Ciampa back. I really enjoy this matchup here. These two gave each other a lot in this matchup. You know, last week notwithstanding, I think Austin has had a lot of great opportunities to shine against some of the top-tier talent NXT, and this one's no exception. It does end with a fairy tale ending by Ciampa. That was pretty academic, but it's still a great match that showcased Theory pretty well while also getting Ciampa over. But right after the match, Johnny Gargano in his powder blue blazer runs in and jumps Ciampa, takes him out on the outside. He's got like the DIY shirt like tucked into his pants, and he pulls out and looks at the end of the segment, and that's pretty much it. We don't get any kind of shirt interaction, no shirt action going on there. And that's where it ends. You know, just keeping that storyline moving along. It's what we saw a couple years ago, but the roles are reversed. I don't know if that's the storyline that's really going to bring NXT, that's going to keep interest in NXT. I mean, it's just interesting, a bit of the shoes on the other foot, but I feel that they need to start setting up things for like the next big program at NXT. And I don't think DIY, but Freaky Friday style is the answer. The Undisputed Era cutting a promo in a truck. Roderick Strong accepts the Velveteen Dream's challenge for a steel cage match. Fish and O'Reilly talk about how they're going to get the tag team titles back eventually, and Adam Cole with the exclamation point saying the prophecy will be fulfilled once again very soon. Up next, a big boy battle between Bronson Reed and Killian Dane, two guys who really aren't doing much at the moment right now. Like, Bronson Reed's just kind of been floating around for the last several months, and Killian Dane had some things. Like, he had a feud with Matt Riddle back in October, and then he was kind of involved. He's on the peripheral, on the bubble of the North American Championship scene with like Damian Priest as well, before Kovac got his shot. And since then, not really much has been going on. I want to see both these guys getting involved in more substantial things as we move along toward Tampa. Anyway, it's a big hoss fight. Both guys really showcasing their strength and their agility, but Killian Dane wins with the Vader Bomb. We get a Broserweights high package, then it's time for the Grizzled Young Vets versus the Forgotten Sons in their brand new red, white, and blue themed entrance video to really show you their baby faces now. The whole commentary throughout the whole match is just like, yay, rah, rah, America, Forgotten Sons, and boo those dastardly foreign heels and everything. And I just hate that kind of narrative. I'm not saying it doesn't work, because I think, historically and just up to today, the modern day, live crowds still eat that shit up with forward heels, boo America, hot tooey, and then the big American hero. That is a tale as old as time. It does work in live settings, but it is terribly overdone. I mean, just looking at history, it's been talked about on this channel enough times as well. And the foreign heel trope is kind of outdated. Are you telling me there aren't better things you can do with Gibson and Drake than that? I think it's just kind of a one-dimensional way of telling a story, kind of lazy. Be that as it may, it was still a really good tag team match and one of the better matches on the night. It ends with a ticket to Mayhem on Wesley for the Grizzled Young Vets to win the match. Oh, those evil foreign heels, they did it again. So I will say, if this is the way to get the Forgotten Sons over, we'll see if it works out, but this crowd was definitely more anti-Gibson and Drake than they were pro-Forgotten Sons. So we'll see if this whole new Yay America kind of gimmick they have is going to stick and if it's going to work. We get a Tegan Knox interview where she says that next week Raquel Gonzalez is not going to be a factor. Sure, she won't. And she says, her beef with Dakota Kai began in a cage and next week it will end in a cage. We then get a elsewhere backstage promo by Damian Priest where he says he did what he did because, Keith Lee has what he wants and Kovac was in his way essentially. So again, furthering that feud as it goes on. Main event time, Charlotte Flair back at Full Sail in a match for the first time in 4 years against Bianca Belair. Of course, this stems back from the build-up before TakeOver Portland and what happened after that title match in the pay-per-view itself. Lots of "you don't go here" chants towards Charlotte, in basically playing off of Bianca's insult towards Charlotte in the weeks leading up to this. This match could have been better. There were moments of brilliance, but I don't think Charlotte sold out that well for Bianca in this matchup, and also there was just some clunkiness near the end where they were kind of like waiting for each other to do something, and then finally it ends with natural selection. Charlotte wins, and then afterward, she grabs a chair and she goes to Pillmanize Bianca's leg with it, and then out comes Rhea Ripley, who does her full song and dance, the big big boot stomp thing, while Charlotte's still beating up Bianca Belair, stomps the chair, breaks the leg or whatever, does the figure eight. While this is all going on, it's hilarious to me. And then Rhea finally runs in and Charlotte runs out. It was chaos, but it was bad chaos. And every time I see something like that, it always reminds me of this moment I watched, when ECW was on TNN. There was this bit I saw where Rhino and somebody else were beating the hell out of Tommy Dreamer. And then you've got the Sandman making his entrance. The whole thing. Enter Sandman, walking around, drinking the beer, smoking the cigarette, climbing the ladder, climbing down the ladder. The beatdown is still going on. Tommy Dreamer's still getting the fuck beat out of him for 5 minutes. And if they just keep going on while Sandman does his entrance and the crowd's yeah, that's what, I'm not saying it's the same thing. But whenever that happens, that's what my mind immediately goes to. I think that was kind of a weird thing for Rhea to do. I know that she and Bianca aren't friends, but don't they have a common enemy in Charlotte? And aren't they kind of united in their NXT bond? That part was just weird and just did not add to it. It took away more from that ending, that main event, and how kind of underwhelming it really all was. AEW begins with a 30-minute Iron Man match. It's the rubber match between Kenny Omega and Pac. Omega comes to the ring alongside the Young Bucks, who are his opponents at the pay-per-view this Saturday. Meanwhile, Adam Page is nowhere to be found. That's very interesting. It's a very athletic contest. We don't get the first point until like 16 minutes in when Pac hits Kenny Omega with a chair. So he loses the point, but then he gets one right back with the Black Arrow. We get a Falcon Arrow off the apron, and it looks so devastating. It gets a big holy shit chant that forces all the audio to go dead because they're trying to censor the audience there. Shooting star press off the top rope, through the table by Pac onto Omega was absolutely sick. Pac's got Omega in the brutalizer forever, but Omega refuses to tap out. Time expires. It's a draw at 1 point apiece. Pac knocks out the referee. We go into sudden death mode. Aubrey Edwards shows up as the backup ref. Omega finally wins with the one-winged angel in overtime. Holy crap, what a match and what a great way to open this show. Not sure how it helps Omega's standing going into the tag title match on Saturday, but nevertheless, fantastic match, and probably one of the better matches of the year so far. Go check it out if you haven't. Then after the commercial break, we see Pac on stage with Tony Schiavone. Pac is very upset with Tony's line of questioning. It wasn't even really a question. It was Tony just saying, well, Pac, you've done all this stuff. You beat up all Kenny Omega's friends, and you lost. What the hell, man? And so then finally Orange Cassidy shows up for some reason. We have a stare down between Orange and Pac. Pac beats up Orange and walks off. And we hear Taz on commentary. Where the hell did he come from? There's like no introduction for him at all. We will hear him for the rest of the night, though. And then we see backstage Lexi Nair, Diamond Dallas Page's daughter, actually. She is the new backstage correspondent, and she's trying to get a word with the Painmaker Posse, which, after you see what happens in the main event tonight, is clearly a ripoff of the Nightmare Family. But I think it's very interesting that the Inner Circle now has two names for their stable. You don't need two names for a heel stable, or at least pick one or the other. We had a big six-man match stemming from last week's action in the Tag Team Battle Royal. You've got the Jurassic Express versus Santana, Ortiz, and Sammy Guevara. Match is very fast-paced, but it does suffer occasionally from the old legal man syndrome. In the end, Guevara looks to be attacking Jungle Boy with like the loaded sock, but out comes Darby Allin, who yanks it away from Guevara, and in the distraction, Jungle Boy is able to roll up Guevara and win the match for his team. Some good action with a fun finish keeps the Allin and Guevara feud rolling along, and we'll see more of that play in to the main event segment. The Best Friends with Orange Cassidy in their corner taking on the Butcher and the Blade with the Bunny at ringside. This match, very different speed from what we just saw in the previous tag team match, where that six-man was just boom, 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 spot, spot, spot. This one was greatly slowed down. We get a face-off near the end of the match between the Bunny and Orange Cassidy. Bunny takes Orange's shades, and Orange takes Bunny's bunny ears and does a dive to the outside with the ears on. It was pretty amazing. Then the Best Friends at the Strong Zero for the win. After the match, they're in the ring with Tony Schiavone again, and they announce that Orange will be facing Pac in singles action at Revolution. Yes, that is a real sentence I just said. Pac versus Orange Cassidy at Revolution, and Chucky T on the mic says, this time Orange is gonna try. Women's four-way matchup next. Yuka Sakazaki, Hikaru Shida, Big Swole, and Shanna. Now, last week and this week, Shanna wearing her Dragon Ball inspired outfit. This week, Big Swole wearing some Storm inspired gear. At least I'm 90% sure it's Storm inspired. Some entertaining stuff with Yuka early on where she's trying to like find her place in the match. She's the odd woman out, so trying to sneak her way into some spots. It's some fun action in this one, though it is very rushed at times. It ends when Shida hits Big Swole with a knee to the face to win, so it establishes her momentum more. She is the number 3 ranked woman, I believe, in AEW right now, so this will hopefully help gain her some momentum. We had a sit-down interview with the tag team champions, Paige and Omega, and the Young Bucks, moderated by Jim Ross. Matt threw a little bit of shade at the champions in this one, saying, it's like, I just can't believe that you guys are champions before us, but, good job anyway. We're still really proud of you. And, Omega, or I should say Paige, looking very uncomfortable. He's got his drink. He's throwing shade back at the Jacksons and everything. Finally, Paige blows up, and he and the Bucks are getting into this shouting match. And Nick actually even mentions, before you joined the Elite, joined the Bullet Club, you were a jobber in Ring of Honor. We gave you the spot in the Elite. Now you want to try and walk away from the Elite a few months ago. We wouldn't let that happen. You're the best place in your career you've ever been, this and that. And so Paige, finally, he's done with his drink, and he walks off, and Kenny Omega just looks kind of sad, and the Bucks just kind of like, they're miffed, and JR tries to wrap it all up by the end. Really looking forward to seeing how things are going to explode at the pay-per-view with this matchup here. It's been brewing for weeks, and I'm really, really excited to see like what's going to happen. Who's going to turn heel, like officially? Is there going to be a swerve? Like what's going to happen? This this really piqued my interest. The show ends with a weigh-in between Jon Moxley and Chris Jericho, and Gary Michael Capetta, the longtime WCW ring announcer, is the host for this segment now. And, Moxley does his weigh-in, Jericho stalls and stalls and stalls and stalls, and finally Moxley's had enough. He headbutts Jericho, which causes a big fight to break out in the ring with the Nightmare family. It's very reminiscent of like what happens in like a boxing or MMA weigh-in. If it goes bad, there's like a shoving match and the posse gets involved, the Painmaker posse. That's why they got their name for this week, because they had to be a posse to break up the fight in the ring for the weigh-in. Anyway, a big fight breaks out. Dustin Rhodes runs in and takes Jake Hager to the concession stand area and into the Dippin' Dots. Those Dippin' Dots didn't do a damn thing to anyone, JR says. And it gets real darkest timeline for the end of the segment, because Darby Allin comes in, but he gets got, and Sammy Guevara breaks the skateboard over Darby's head, and then Jericho takes out Moxley with the Judas effect and stands tall. Well, he's a bloody mess, by the way. The headbutt busted him open hard way over the nose. He got 7 stitches on that. He showed on Instagram after the show is over. But the whole thing ends with Jericho standing tall, Moxley's laid out, Darby Allin's laid out, the Dippin' Dots are laid out. It's a great way. That's how you do chaos to end a show. But the big question here is, what's Jericho's weight? Time now for me to decide which show won for the week, NXT or AEW Dynamite, and this week my choice is AEW, simply on the merit of that fantastic Iron Man match alone, but I also enjoyed seeing Orange Cassidy get some time to shine, a couple of moments to shine here on this show. Also, the weigh-in was a great closer because it brought so many storylines together in one segment, building like 3 matches at once, with Darby Allin getting involved, with Dustin Rhodes getting involved in everything. Also, the sit-down interview with the Bucks and Paige and Omega I thought was also great stuff as well. NXT had some good matches as well, but you can just tell they're not in the same kind of mode that AEW is in. Obviously, AEW is in full like go home mode to Revolution. We got to build the hell out of this thing. Go, go, go. And with NXT, not so much. They got a ways to go before the next takeover, so they're kind of like biding their time, and I get that. But comparing show to show, AEW is the clear winner.
Oh, stop! Don't stop. Keep going. What else you gonna do to little old me?
And with that, time for my predictions for AEW Revolution, happening Saturday night in Chicago, Illinois. Let's begin with one of the matches they announced on Wednesday. You've got the Dark Order versus SCU. And if this match does not reveal the Exalted Leader by the end of it, I will be very surprised, because they have certainly done a lot of ramping up to that kind of blow-off happening. Then there's been a big old telegraphing that Christopher Daniels might be the leader of the Dark Order. A lot of rumors that Matt Hardy could be the leader of the Dark Order. Although I would be pissed if it were Matt Hardy, because if you're written off TV on Raw with this debilitating neck injury and beatdown, if he shows up on Saturday as the Exalted Leader and he's not selling the neck, I will be furious. Dark Order powers or not, that's bullshit. And it really does a disservice to the story, that they're trying to tell on Raw with Randy Orton. And by doing that, it also diminishes the feud with Edge. I'm just saying, if Matt Hardy can come back in a week or two and be the leader of the Dark Order, and Edge is still out after a few weeks, then man, Edge looks kind of like a pussy. Anyway, my prediction for this one is the Dark Order is going to win with the help of the Exalted Leader, whoever that is. Who do you think it is? Let me know in the comments. Another match that was added on Wednesday night, Pac versus Orange Cassidy. My body is ready for this. People want to shit on Orange Cassidy, but the people who do that don't seem to realize that Orange Cassidy is a very good wrestler, and he's just toning it way down in this character, but can go when he absolutely has to. I'm not saying he's going to go crazy in this one, but he's going to do a lot of shit you have not seen before in AEW, and it's going to really surprise people. And Pac's still going to murder him in the end of the day, but it's going to be a very entertaining matchup, and I think just the contrast of this evil baddie Pac going against this nonchalant character in Orange Cassidy who could occasionally do some crazy stuff, I think it's going to make for a great match. Darby Allin's going to take on Sammy Guevara in a bit of a grudge match, stemming back from a few weeks ago when Guevara jabbed Darby's own skateboard into his neck, rendering him mute for a while. And this match, I'm expecting a lot of fun stuff with this matchup. You got 2 high flyers. One is certainly more of a risk taker than the other. I think you're going to have some crazy ass stuff happening in this matchup here. Ultimately, I do believe that Darby will get his win here, and he's going to knock Sammy down a peg. Staying in the Inner Circle / Painmaker posse business, Jake Hager finally making his in-ring debut in AEW against Dustin Rhodes, and it was Hager who broke Dustin's arm in the car door several months ago. So this is it's all been leading up to this, and I think it's gonna be a great matchup here. You've seen Dustin Rhodes, what he can do in the ring. Time has not slowed this man down, and Hager is a very capable athlete and can do great things in the ring as well. I think he's going to end up winning this one. Dustin's going to take the fall here because, of course, it's Hager. He's the big hurt of the Inner Circle. He's making his in-ring debut. Him not winning here would make no sense to me. So, of course, I think he's going to win. In what's sure to be one of the more emotional matches of the night, you have Cody taking on MJF. The way they've been telling this story since Full Gear has been just great work by everyone involved. The heel turn by MJF at Full Gear and all the trials and tribulations Cody has had to go through just to get this match in place with MJF, taking the lashes, doing the big cage match with Wardlow, and all the stuff in between. And it's just been, I think, really masterfully done storytelling here with these guys. I think this match will be very entertaining. There's going to be a lot of, like I said, a lot of emotional twists and turns, ebbs and flows. I do think Cody's going to win this one. He didn't win the last pay-per-view matchup at Full Gear. I think this is going to be his chance to redeem himself. MJF, he'll get his licks here. He'll take the loss, but they've been building him up well enough that it's not going to hurt him at all. And I'm really curious to know, what will this carry on to another show? I can't imagine this is the end after all the build they've been doing for it. So I'm wondering how much further this feud's going to go. And then once that happens, where either man going to go with their own respective storylines and their career paths. Time will tell on that one. I think it's going to be a great match, but Cody's going to win. Hangman Page and Kenny Omega will defend the tag team championships against the Young Bucks, and this one really has got me scratching my head as to what's going to happen. Like I said in the AEW portion of this review, there's a lot of variables. I think people have speculated that Hangman Page could turn heel, Kenny Omega and the Bucks could turn heel. There's a lot of different ways you could play this out. No matter what happens with the face-heel alignment, I do believe the Young Bucks are going to win this matchup and become the new tag team champions. It's one of those preordained things. You're kind of surprised it's taken them this long to have the gold, but I believe this is going to be a very interesting match. Another emotional match as well, because this is part of the Elite and they have all this history together. So something's going to happen. Something's going to give. And there's going to be one too many miscommunications in this match that will ultimately lead to the Young Bucks winning and becoming the new champs. Nyla Rose will defend the Women's World Championship against Chris Statlander, and I'm really torn about this one, folks, because I do believe Nyla's going to win here because she is the newly minted champion. They got to put her and the belt over, but it's going to come at the expense of Chris Statlander, who's been on a real roll as of late. And when you consider the other failed experiments with babyface ladies in this company, Rio and Britt Baker before, she turned heel, Chris Statlander kind of came out of nowhere and suddenly now has the hearts and minds of the fans. And I want to see her do well. And I'm not saying that a loss here is going to ruin her or totally derail her, but it's just, you hate to see it. But I do believe that, Nyla is going to retain. Hopefully Chris will stay in the title hunt, and we'll see where that goes. But yeah, that's kind of my decision on it, is Nyla's going to retain. And finally, Chris Jericho will defend the AEW World title against Jon Moxley in a match they've been setting up since Double or Nothing last year. At the very end of that show in Vegas, it was Moxley who debuted and crashed Jericho's party, and that was the beginning. They've been planting the seeds and we're just riding this out for months ever since. And I like the Cody MJF match. I believe the story for this one has also been done very well, with a bit of the old school violence mixed in there with the gouging out of the eye and eye for an eye and the car and all that stuff, and the animosity here and the physicality of this feud has been really fun to watch, and seeing Moxley taking on the Inner Circle all by himself has been kind of fun to watch as well. And again, tough one to call, because you can keep this Jericho train moving along and have him just be this unkillable asshole heel champion and maybe keep going to Double or Nothing or something, but I just see Moxley winning this one. I think he's got too much momentum, and it's been a good long time for Jericho to be the champion, and to have Moxley win it here I think would be great validation for him. It'd be a great way to end the show, just to have Moxley standing tall there with the championship, having Jericho in Chicago. It's going to be a very vocal crowd. I think Moxley coming out on top is the way this show is going to end. But let me know your picks for Revolution happening this Saturday in the comment section below. Also talk about what you thought about AEW and NXT in general this week in the comments as well. Vote for what show you thought was better in the iCard in the corner of your screen. I will try, much like Orange Cassidy, I'm going to try to get this Revolution review done as fast as possible, but I will be out of town this week for Ring of Honor business, so I'll try and watch it maybe at the airport or when I get home. I'll try and get it done. It might be middle of the week when the review comes out. I know it's not going to be very timely, but I do want to watch this show and I want to give you guys the review, so please just be a little bit patient with me, but the review will be happening then. But until then, folks, I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.